So, so Hare Krishna Mataji. So today we'll be starting chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, and that is nothing but pure devotional service. And before we start the class, let us offer our humble obeisances to the beautiful deities of ISKCON Mangaluru, Sri Sri Radha Govind Ji, Sri Sri Radha Govind Ji ki Jai.
Hare Krishna Madaji. Madaji,
Yes,
your video is not available, only audio is available, Madaji.
oh, Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Nice to see.
Now video is there.
Okay, yeah.
Please upload. Yeah. Now, yes. Okay. Now it's okay, Madaji. Hare Krishna.
Very good. Thank you, Mati. Thank you so much. Okay. So we saw the synopsis yesterday. So we'll directly start with Hare Krishna Mataji. Can you please read Shloka 1 and translation, please, Mataji?
Yes, Hare Krishna Madaji.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Shloka 9.1. Shri Bhagavan Uvaja Idam Tude Grihyatamam प्रवक्ष्यामि अनसूयवे ज्ञानं विज्ञानसहितं यज्ञात्वा मुच्यसे शुभान्. Supreme Lord said, my dear Arjuna, because you are never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most secret wisdom, by which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So, Lord Krishna, he imparts the most confidential knowledge and realization to Arjuna. So here they are saying, see the Bhagavad Gita, what is confidential? The chapter 2 and 3 is confidential. Why? Because it contains knowledge of spirit, soul, and body, which is useful for liberation. So that is why chapter 2 and 3 are confidential. Because if we don't understand the difference between body and soul, um, we cannot proceed further in bhakti, right? So that's why that is the first step. That is confidential. That is the basic. Then next, what is more confidential? In Krishna says in chapter 7 and 8, knowledge which brings about enlightenment about Krishna consciousness, Supreme Lord and his energies. Okay, so we have to know about Krishna and his energies, material, spiritual, marginal energies, all. So that is why that is more confidential. Now, most confidential. So in 7 and 8, we start, Krishna starts the process of bhakti, wherein he gives importance to devotional service also. And most confidential in Bhagavad Gita is chapter 9 because it deals with pure, unalloyed devotion and it delineates the glories of Lord. So it tells the glories of the Lord and it tells the purpose of bhakti. It should be pure bhakti, unalloyed devotion without any material desires. So, what is the qualification? Useless commentary of high academic scholars give inaccurate commentaries. So we should not listen to the commentaries of the Bhagavad Gita written by people who are educated. Sometimes we see, right, people who are like highly qualified, highly people like who have studied in IIT and all such things. They write their own Bhagavad Gita. They write their own thesis. They prepare. Okay. And this is the most confidential knowledge. So Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. So what is the qualification to receive? Anasuya way. We should be free from envy. And what is the means to receive? How should we receive this knowledge? By proper hearing. And what will happen if we hear properly when we get that knowledge? What are the benefits? Relief from miseries of material existence. Okay, so these are the 9 processes of devotional service, doing which that is the knowledge that we need. So actually in the shloka, we get this knowledge of idam gnanam. It is said in the shloka. So this knowledge of bhakti, like 9 stages of bhakti are there, right? Any one we can practice or all. But here in our parampara, most probably importance is given to hearing and chanting. Hearing more about Krishna and chanting Krishna's name. So we can do any 9, but if we can do any one sincerely, we can surely go back to Godhead. Okay. So I'll try to explain more in detail, Mataji, like how Prabhupada he gives the in detail in the purport. It's a big purport. Actually, the first 3 shlokas they have very big purports, so I didn't want to miss any points. So, who is qualified to receive this knowledge, the most confidential knowledge? So, Krishna clearly he says, Anasuyave. Anasuyave means one who is not envious. So, spiritual knowledge is not for everyone. So, one may be very educated, scholarly, or famous, but if one is jealous of Krishna, he cannot understand Krishna. So, don't. So no, we should never think that he's highly educated and that's why his Bhagavad Gita is qualified. No, right? So we should not read such Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Arjuna, why Arjuna is qualified? Because he accepts Krishna as supreme and he does not criticize or compete with Krishna. He hears whatever Krishna says with humility and faith. So, only a submissive and non envious heart can receive real spiritual knowledge. Okay, and what is the most confidential knowledge? So we saw that in the earlier chapters Krishna has already spoken about karma, gnana, yoga, ashtanga yoga, but chapter 9 is higher than all of these. It is not just some theory or it is not just liberation, but chapter 9 talks about pure devotional service, shuddha bhakti. So what is that Shuddha Bhakti? Loving Krishna without any personal desire, just serving him only to please him. And why is this bhakti called confidential? Because it cannot be understood by logic alone. It has to be revealed by Krishna himself. It awakens only through devotion. So Krishna, he gives that buddhi yoga, he gives that divine intelligence to sincere devotees. So Krishna says, right, dadami buddhi yogam, right? To those who are constantly devoted to me, I give the intelligence by which they can come to me. So Krishna cannot be known by speculation. He is only known by devotional service. See, the Gnanis, they speculate, right? They just read the Vedas and the Upanishads and they try to speculate, oh, God could be like this could be like that, right? So, not like that. So, we can't understand Krishna by speculation. Only through through devotional service, he is understood. And Prabhupada gives he stresses the importance on hearing and association. Okay, hearing about Krishna is powerful, see, especially that too in the association of devotees. Why? So, devotees speak from realization, not imagination. So, hearing from what happens when you hear from non devotees? It creates confusion. So, hearing from devotees, it creates purification. And what do they say? Mahat Sevam Dwaram Ahur Vimukteha. Serving devotees opens the door to liberation. So, association decides our destination. What kind of association we have, that decides our destination. So, we should always be in the association of devotees, sincere devotees. Next, we saw, right, 9 processes of devotional service, and Krishna also says in the purport, Prabhupada writes, "Idam gnanam," this knowledge. Gnanam means this knowledge. Meaning what knowledge? Meaning bhakti. Means what? What are the 9 stages? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. That means hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the Lord, worshipping, praying, obeying, friendship with Krishna, full surrender. What happens when we do one or all of these 9 different processes of devotional service? It purifies our heart, it cleans our heart. So we should understand bhakti is practical. Okay, it is not imaginary. Many people think bhakti means I love Krishna, Krishna is in my heart. So they think it is like sentimental. So it is not like that. It's like bhakti is a science, right? It is practical, it is proven. We've seen many of our acharyas. So we should never think it is like imaginary bhakti. So it is practical. And when you get this knowledge, it is, Prabhupada says, we get liberated even while living in this world. So a sincere devotee, he may be in this material world, but when he gets this knowledge, he is already liberated because his consciousness is spiritual. He's Jivan Mukta. Jivan Mukta means he's liberated while living on this material planet. And Prabhupada says why scholars often misunderstand Krishna. Because many commentators are envious of Krishna. See, they accept the Bhagavad Gita, but nowhere Krishna is in picture. They reject Krishna as the supreme personality of Godhead. So such explanations are useless and they are misleading. So one cannot understand Bhagavad Gita without surrender to Krishna. Okay. So what is the result of this knowledge? When we get this most confidential knowledge, what is the result? So Krishna promises freedom from material miseries, freedom from fear, anxiety, and confusion. And we also understand our original identity as servants of Krishna. And we develop steady faith, Dridhavrata. Steady faith, why? When we get the complete knowledge, we understand that this is our goal, this is our duty. Okay, so only if we have that faith, then we practice Krishna consciousness on a daily basis. We become steady in Krishna consciousness, right? So faith is very important. So what is Krishna saying in this verse? He's saying, be humble, not envious. Hear from pure devotees, engage in devotional service, and we have to love Krishna without any material desires. Okay, so this is the highest knowledge that Krishna is giving in Shloka 1. So let's go to Shloka 2. Hare Krishna Mataji, can you please read the Shloka and translation?
Hare Krishna. Shloka 2. Hare Krishna. Shloka 9.2. Raja Vidya Raja Gukhyam Pavitramidam Uttamam Pratyakshavagamam Dharmyam Susukham
Sorry, Mataji, Pratyakshavagamam.
Pratyakshavagamam.
Yeah, perfect.
Dharmyam Susukham Kartumavyayam.
Haribol. Wonderful, Mataji. Yeah.
Translation. Slogan 9.2. This knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because of it gives direct perception of the self by realization. It is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. So here, Krishna is further glorifying the most confidential knowledge. He's saying it is Raja Vidya, Raja Guhyam. So Raja Vidya means it is king of all knowledge, and Raja Guhyam means most Guhyam, most secret of all secrets, most confidential knowledge. Why is it the king of all knowledge? Because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. See, the Bhagavad Gita is like the essence of all the Vedas. So even if we, in this Kali Yuga, we can't read all the Vedas, four Vedas and everything, and this practically not, even if we read also, we may not understand. So, Bhagavad Gita is the gist of all the scriptures. So, if we just read this, that is more than enough. So, and in that also, in this particular chapter, it is the sum and substance of everything. Why we should read the Bhagavad Gita, right? And why is it Rajaguhyam? This talks about the eternal activities of the soul, and thus it gives positive information. See, we are so materially attracted outside now to our body. Okay, and so when we talk about all these eternal activities of the soul, generally people don't believe the concept of soul itself, forget about the activities of the soul, right? So that's why it is secret, right? People don't generally understand all these eternal activities of the soul. Even if they read, it's like it goes above their head. Okay, so it is secret of all secrets, because that's why Bhagavad Gita is open to everybody, but everybody can't understand the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, that's why it is said, it is this, even though it is said it is a secret, it is not exactly a secret. Everybody reads, but they don't understand it. So Krishna gives that understanding only to a sincere devotee who surrenders to him. Okay, so we understand the activities of the soul. Okay, so first, why is it, Prabhupada says in the purport, why is this called the king of education? So Krishna himself declares Raja Vidya, the king of all knowledge, and Raja Guhyam, the most confidential of all secrets. See, we have in the purport, Prabhupada says, we have many great philosophers in India like Gautama, Kapila, Kannada, Yagnavalkya. So they have written all these Vedic literature. So we have vast Vedic literature, Vedanta Sutra by Vyasadeva. But Krishna says, Bhakti, devotional service, is the essence of all philosophy. See, we may read all these, everything, but what we should learn from all this is bhakti, devotional service, is the essence. So we should not read whatever book. I mean, like if many people, if it is, they think that whatever book they are reading is spiritual and they end up confused. So we should understand not all knowledge is equal. Okay. So, and Prabhupada says in the purport that today's education focuses mostly on what? Material education, politics, science, technology, medicine, engineering, but there is no department for the soul. But we should understand, without the soul, the body is useless, right? Still, people, they invest so much in the body, they take care of the body so much. They put creams to the face, creams to the body or to the hair. They put dye to the hair. So many things they do to just to beautify the body, right? But we are missing the main thing. We are ignoring the soul. So ignoring the soul is the greatest educational failure. So we don't have universities where education of the soul is given. So we have we are fortunate because Prabhupada, he is giving us the concept of soul through the Bhagavad Gita. So otherwise, I don't know where. I mean, especially me, I don't know. I would have still been like that only in the conception of body. and doing all bodily activities only. Okay. And here in the purport, Prabhupada also writes that Krishna, uh, uh, he goes deeply into, he says that soul is not the body, but that is not enough. Okay, we are not the body, we are the soul. But Krishna, he gives some more information. He explains further. Bhagavad Gita, what it teaches just the body is temporary, the soul is eternal. But Krishna, he gives some more details in this purport. Prabhupada writes, soul does not become void, right? And soul does not become inactive. Soul does not merge and disappear. So, what is the soul? The soul is eternally active, and its real activity is loving devotional service to Krishna. So, what do we understand? Liberation does not mean stopping activity. See, what do all these Mayavadis and the impersonalists, what do? They do practice bhakti. They take it as an intermediate step. They don't take that as the goal. Okay, they use bhakti. I mean, they through bhakti, they undergo liberation. But what is their concept? After liberation, they merge into the impersonal Brahman. Means what? When you merge into the impersonal Brahman, there is no activity. You become one with God, right? There is no activity. So to have some activity, we need two people, and there should be a relationship, right? So, but when you merge into the impersonal Brahman, where is, I mean, God Himself is impersonal, so there is no activity. Like we can't meditate on, we can't do any activity to a person, to a light or to energy, right? So that concept is wrong. So liberation does not mean stopping activity. See, once these impersonalists, they think they merge and become, and they think there is no activity, right? So bhakti means soul means pure spiritual activity, even after liberation also. And why bhakti is pure knowledge? Pavitram uttamam. In the shloka, Krishna is saying Pavitram Uttamam. Why? Bhakti is the purest of knowledge, because we generally do many sinful activities. So sinful reactions exist in three stages. If you see in this thing, PPT, you will be able to understand. Okay, so one is like we are Kutam, Kutam, Bija, and Prarabdha and Aprarabdha. So these are the four states. Kutam is the inbuilt sinful desire. I mean, we also don't know that whether it exists. So that is Kutam. Next is Bija. And when we do certain activities, that sinful mentality comes out. So that is the seed form. Okay, and then a prarabdha and a prarabdha. So once you perform the sinful activity, then the suffering has not yet come. That is a prarabdha, right? It is in pipeline, it is yet to come. And prarabdha means whatever sinful and whatever suffering we are already facing. Prarabdha means manifest reaction. We have done sinful reactions for which we are suffering now. That is prarabdha. Okay, so all the sinful reactions happen because of avidya, ignorance. Okay, so that we have to understand. But see, karma and gnana cannot fully destroy these reactions, these sinful reactions. But bhakti burns them completely from the root and branch. See, even that sinful propensity which is there in the heart, the kuta stage also, it will destroy. It will totally burn off all the sinful reactions which are deep inside, which even we don't know, right? Even the Kutam stage sinful reactions, uh, it burns off. So bhakti is so powerful. Okay. So all sinful reactions, past, present, future, are destroyed by devotional service, right? So next, Prabhupada says devotional service gives direct realization. It is pratyaksha. See, pratyaksha right? Pratyaksha. So this is not blind faith. See, let's take a simple example. When you chant Hare Krishna mantra sincerely, you feel a kind of peace, happiness, purification. All the bad habits go away. Naturally, you don't put any effort. Just you chant. Sincerely, you have to chant, right? You feel a lot of peace, happiness, and there's purification. All your anarthas start disappearing. All your bad habits naturally go away. So we should understand that this is direct experience. It is not some imagination. Many people think what chanting Hare Krishna will do a difference. I will just do seva. Chanting does make a lot of difference. It removes all the anarthas that are there in the heart, and it gives peace, because chanting Hare Krishna means it is Krishna. Krishna is dancing on our tongue, and Krishna is like Satchitananda. So Ananda means what? Bliss, ever increasing happiness. So that is what a soul is craving for, right? So we should not think it is like some imagination. So it is practical, right? And Bhakti, Prabhupada says, works for everyone. There is no qualification needed for Bhakti. See, example Prabhupada gives of Narada Muni. See, he was born as a maid servant's son. He had no education, he had no Vedic training also. What did he do? Just served devotees. He ate their remnants. He heard their speeches. He heard their chanting. What happened? So, because of that, he became the greatest devotee and spiritual master. Right? Because of Narada Muni, so many became devotees. Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva, Mrigari, so many. Right? So, association with devotees is more powerful than education. So, we have to understand this. Okay? So, it's not necessary that we have to be educated. Then only we'll get bhakti. No. So, just association with devotees is more powerful than education. And Prabhupada says in the purport, bhakti is the highest religion. Okay, so generally the people keep saying my dharma, my Hindu dharma is good. It follows my Muslim. It is not that. What do they do when they say Hindu Muslim? That they just follow rituals only. But religion, it does not mean only rituals, or it is like social identity. People say I'm Hindu, I'm Muslim. It is not social identity, or it is not just a ritual. When the it's not fear of God. Okay, true religion means, that's why in Bhagavad Gita, bhakti means when many people think Krishna is Hindu God. No, Prabhupada says it is, there's no concept of religion here. Anybody can practice. That is why in our Krishna consciousness, we see Christians coming, Hindus coming, Muslims coming. So there is no concept of like uh, religion here. We don't say when we meet devotees, oh, you are Christian, you are Hindu. We don't say that. We just treat them as devotees, right? So, Hindu bhakti is the highest religion. That is real religion, right? Not like the true religion means awakening love for Krishna. So, the highest dharma is that which awakens bhakti to the Lord. Okay, so religion, okay, you may be a Hindu, but without devotion, it is incomplete. So, religion without devotion is incomplete. And then Krishna again says, Bhakti is susukam. It is joyfully performed. Why is Bhakti joyful? Because when we hear Krishna Katha, that is joyful. When we hear the pastimes of Krishna, it is so joyful, right? And chanting is joyful. And eating prasadam is even more joyful. When we serve devotees, we feel happy. So even in bhakti, even a poor person can do bhakti. What does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? If you offer me with love and devotion a leaf, flower, fruit, water, he accepts it. Okay, so Krishna accepts whatever we give. When we give it with love and devotion, he definitely accepts it. So bhakti is simple, practical, and it is happy. And bhakti is eternal. So even after liberation, bhakti is not temporary. See, not like the Mayavadi devotion. What do they say? I will serve till liberation. And after that, what happens? They merge into impersonal Brahman and they say nothing to do. They become one with God. So true bhakti, it continues after liberation also. In fact, we are just practicing so that after getting liberation, we can serve Krishna or our Guru Maharaj, because we are servants. We have no right to go and directly serve Krishna. We go there and we meet our Guru Maharaj and we continue to do the same service that we were doing here. Here we are just practicing, like we are like interns now. We are learning what to do once we go to Goloka, right? We are practicing now. So bhakti, it continues after liberation. So in Goloka Vrindavan, still devotees are serving. They're still loving Krishna. They still enjoy bhakti there. So bhakti should not, generally people think that bhakti is an intermediate step. So these gnanis and these Ashtanga yogis, they think bhakti is an intermediate step to become a great Ashtanga yogi or a Gnana yogi. So they think it is a means. They think bhakti is a means. But actually, bhakti is the goal itself. That they don't understand. They use bhakti as a means, via media they use as an intermediate step. No, but that is wrong. Bhakti is the goal itself. And Prabhupada says all other yogas end in bhakti. See, Prabhupada, earlier in all the chapters, we saw Karma Yoga, Gnana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga. All of these yogas are incomplete without bhakti. Right? Only after we become Brahman realized, thus one become pure devotional service. So actually, becoming Brahman realized means that is the first stage of realizing God, Krishna. Right, then you get further purified, then you come to the stage of meditating on Krishna as Paramatma, and the final stage is Bhagavan, Krishna himself. Okay, it may take some many years for a karma gnani, for a karmi or a gnani or a ashtanga yogi, but definitely finally they come to understanding that Krishna is everything, Krishna is a person. They understand. Okay, so what do we understand in the shloka? Bhakti is the king of education. Bhakti is the purest knowledge. Bhakti gives direct realization, and bhakti destroys all sin, even the sins that we don't know that are sitting in our heart, which we are not aware of. So those sins also it eradicates, and bhakti is what? Joyful and eternal. So we are so happy when kirtan goes. People, that's why devotees dance, and prasadam is so nice, right? So therefore, Krishna, we should understand that Krishna consciousness is not sentiment; it is perfect knowledge, and it is meant for everyone. So we should understand that. Okay, so we've learned dharmyam, perfection of religion; susukam, it is blissful; avyayam, it is everlasting. Even after liberation, we continue to do bhakti. Okay. So Hare Krishna Mataji, can you please read Shloka 3 and translation, Mataji?
Hare Krishna, yes, Mataji, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Shloka 3. So 9.3. Ashradanaha Purusha Dharmasyasya Param Tapa Aprapya Mam Nivardande Mrityu Samsara my knee. Hare Krishna.
Vartman. Vartman, Mataji.
Vartman.
Yeah, perfect.
Krishna. Translation. Those who are not faithful on the path of devotional service cannot attain me. O conqueror of foes, but return to birth and death in this material world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So in this shloka, Krishna is making a very clear and a serious statement. Okay, what is he saying? Without faith, one cannot attain Krishna. And if you don't attain Krishna, what happens? If you don't do practice bhakti to Krishna, what happens? Again, we serve Maya, right?
Yes.
If not Krishna, it is Maya. So we must return back to this birth and death. Here, no faith means what? No, if you have no faith, you don't understand the importance of bhakti. So that's why you don't do bhakti. There is no daily sadhana is not there. No steady bhakti. No Krishna. So if no Krishna, then what happens? Repeated suffering in the samsara. Okay, so that's why you need faith is so important. When you understand that importance, then you take it seriously. If that faith is not there, you think that is not so important. Why I have to chant every day? So they all these different opinions. Why do I have to read Bhagavad Gita? Why do I have to associate with devotees? All these questions keep coming in our mind, right? But when we have that faith, no, Krishna consciousness, practicing Krishna consciousness, bhakti is everything. That is the goal of life. Then we get that seriousness. Then we become steady in bhakti. Okay. So why having faith is so important? Faith means what? Shraddha means firm conviction, strong conviction we should have that by serving Krishna, I will get everything. Everything is achieved just by serving Krishna or performing devotional service. It's just like, see, if you water the root of the tree, it nourishes the entire tree. You don't have to water separately the trunk, the branches, the leaves, the flowers. We don't have to. If we just water the root, it nourishes the entire tree. And if you just feed the stomach, automatically everything, the whole body is satisfied. We don't have to give food to the hands, food to the legs, food to the nose separately. And even if you give it also, it doesn't work out, right? So if you just feed the stomach, all the body parts get energized. Like that, similarly, serving Krishna alone, it satisfies, it includes, when you serve Krishna, it means you're satisfying the demigods, you're satisfying the society, your family, yourself, in fact, the entire creation. See, when you serve Krishna, all these people are satisfied, the demigods, society, family, yourself, in fact, the entire creation. So that is what we have to understand. Many people think, oh, I need to serve my family. Where is the time to serve Krishna? No. If you serve Krishna, everything is taken care of. That is what they're trying to say. So bhakti is not neglecting duties. Bhakti is perfectly completing all duties. The only thing what we have to do is add Krishna to our life. So that we have to understand. And Prabhupada gives an important point here. How does that faith come? By association, right? When we hear in association from devotees, we have to associate with sincere sadhus who are studying Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, right? So, how a faith association, satsang is so important. We should not associate with non devotees who are materialistic. They will pull us more into materialistic activities, which already we have so much of material activities. Why associate more with those people and become even more um, uh, attached? So that's why we should get attached to devotees, sincere devotees, and hear from them, okay, about Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam. But still, there are some unfortunate people who sometimes come to ISKCON, like they hear everything, but still they doubt. They still have that hesitation. That's why they still remain faithless. So, hearing without faith, it does not transform our life. We should have that faith. Bhakti does everything. Pure devotional service can give me everything in life. And Prabhupada also describes three levels of people in Krishna consciousness. వస్తాను ఒక్క నిమిషం మాతాజీ just give me a second, I'll just come back మాతాజీ.
Sure, Mataji.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Sorry, Mataji.
It's okay, Mataji. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
thank you. So, Prabhupada, he tells about three levels of people in Krishna consciousness, the levels they are in. So, a first class devotee or Uttama Adhikari, he has full knowledge of all the scriptures. He has deep scriptural knowledge, and like he can quote shlokas and everything. So, he has full knowledge. And his faith, that's why, because he has that in depth knowledge, his faith is unshakable. Nobody can pull him out of Krishna consciousness. There is no chance of falling into this material world again. So there is guaranteed success. So he will surely get Krishna. A first class devotee, there is no doubt about that. So who are the first class devotees? Devotees like Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada's disciples, our Guru Maharaj, and everybody. So such people, they will surely go back to Godhead. Okay, and second class devotee, okay, they are not expert in scriptures. I mean, they know, they have knowledge of the scriptures, but they may not be able to, what do you say, quote the shlokas. When somebody asks, why is this, why is like that, they will tell them the knowledge, but they may not be able to quote the shlokas. Okay, so, but they're firm, that's why their firm is faith. They know that Krishna Bhakti is best, right? So they are sincere. They may not be able to quote, but they have that full knowledge. So they are sincere and steady. So that's why they second class devotee also, they don't fall down. They progress slowly, safely, and they go back to Godhead. So that's why Prabhupada says at least we should come to the level of second class devotee, but we should never be on the level of third class devotee. And who is a third class devotee? His faith is very weak. He has so many doubts, and he has so many desires, like the karma or gnani, right? Karmi or a gnani. They have so many desires, right? So that's why they do these karma kandi activities, and the impersonalists also, they want to mix only with the impersonal Brahman. So there also the impersonals, they just want liberation. They just want to go out from this material world, right? They are not interested in serving Krishna. There's no question of serving at all. They want to just this thing is, they want to come out of this material world, which is a place of misery, and they just want to. That's why they just want to merge with the impersonal Brahman and become one with God, because they understand that doing activity creates some karma, or karma, be it good or bad. So because of which they have to come back. So they think that even after liberation also, if we do some activity after going there, they think again we'll get karma and jnana. What is the use of what we have done till now, the sadhana that we have done till now? So that's why they want to become one with the God, right? So that's the concept. That's why karmis and jnanis, we have to be very careful. They have so many desires, right? Gnani is material desires. Karmi is material desires. Gnani is, though he is at least on the platform of Krishna, but still their intention is different. They want to just get liberated from this material world because they don't want to suffer. They merge into the impersonal Brahman. So these people, these third class devotees, they give more importance to deities. I mean, they worship the deities, they do everything for the deities, but they don't focus on the devotees. They don't give importance to the devotees. They just see that whether I have come to the temple, they've given their wish list, and they just put it in front of the deities and this do puja, and they just go off. Okay, so such people, they think that God is just for giving us some boon and that's all. So they don't have knowledge of God, the complete knowledge. So that's why if somebody else comes and tells him, no, no, this path is good, so they easily try to go to that path because they have so many material desires and all these people, right? So that's why there is a chance of falling down for them. So actually, we've seen that in Bhagavad Gita also. Some people, they come to Krishna consciousness for money, some come for peace, some come for social support. And when all these problems are solved, they leave Krishna consciousness. When the problems are solved, no more do they do devotional service. They leave. So that is weak faith. They just come with some intention. They once that is solved, they leave bhakti and they just go off. Okay, so that's why these third class devotees, they fall because their faith is incomplete. Okay, knowledge is incomplete. They don't try to understand that complete knowledge. Because if you don't get that knowledge, the faith is weak, it is incomplete, right? But even like when all these, what do you say? When all these desires go away, even in a gnani or a karmi, all these desires go away, then they can at least come to the second class or even first class, right? But as long as these they have these material desires or merging one with God, so they cannot. Their faith is still shaken because that knowledge is incomplete. So, one hope we have, it's not that if a devotee falls from first class and again merges into the material ocean, that's the end of him. No, there is a chance, right? So, but the thing is, um, they lack faith. That is the real danger. See, if you fall from bhakti, that is okay with knowledge. But if you don't have that knowledge, why don't you have that knowledge? Because of that complete knowledge is not there, you lack faith. That is the real danger. See, some people may fall down, but they know they have the knowledge, they come back. But these third class devotees, they lack, because they don't have that knowledge, they lack the faith. So that is very important. Okay. And those with no faith at all, I mean, totally, Prabhupada says they have no faith at all. Some people they hear about Krishna, but they call it, oh, this is exaggeration or mythology. They say they mock devotion, they criticize devotion, right? Some people say, oh, how can someone lift a Govardhan mountain? Oh, how can Krishna marry 80, I mean, so many wives? How can he have, he's God, he should teach us. So they try to, because they don't have faith, they tell all these points. They criticize bhakti and everything. But Krishna, clearly he says that for such people, perfection is very difficult. So they should not be arrogant. Okay, So bhakti begins when arrogance ends, when we prideness destroys bhakti. So we should understand that. Okay. So, what do we understand from the shloka? See, after studying Bhagavad Gita, we must understand we should give up all other shelters, all other processes like Jnana Yoga, Karma, Karma Yoga, or sorry, not Karma Yoga. Um, all other yogas, Ashtanga Yoga, they're not practical also for this age, right? We should give up all and we should just take up bhakti yoga, which is practical for this Kali Yuga. So we should give up all other processes of yoga and just take up bhakti yoga. Take full shelter of Krishna, serve him with faith. Okay, that is called Shraddha. So faith is the foundation of bhakti. Okay, if you many people, they just that's why they do only devotional service. They do uh, to a certain time they do bhakti, they do devotional service, but they don't chant. Many people they don't chant because they don't have that knowledge, they don't have that faith that chanting can purify me. They're not interested in that. They think, oh, if I do this seva for Krishna, Krishna will get pleased and then my desire will be fulfilled. So that's why they do devotional service for some time and they just leave, right? But what uh, if we have faith, then you can do steady bhakti. So only then when you do steady bhakti to Krishna, then you get what do you say, liberated from repeated birth and death. You get free from repeated birth and death, and you go back to Krishna Loka. And association is also very important. Association creates faith, and when you have that faith, it leads to Krishna, right? And then we get liberated. So that's why it is very important to protect our faith. We should nourish it and we should never neglect association of devotees. Okay, so this verse is actually it's a warning for us, right? We should always develop that faith. We should be to get that faith. We should be in the association of devotees. Okay, so that's what is being said here. Faith is defined, and how is faith created? By association of devotees, and how all the levels of devotees are described here, right? So we'll stop here for today, Mataji.
Mm.